In the last section, we added a register component command to try to get our component to show up on the screen, but we got an error when we tried to run our code. So let's troubleshoot that now. The error that we got, if we pop open Xcode here, stated, hey, we can't find the variable React. That's just not defined within the file. So let's go back over to our code editor, and you'll notice that in fact, we really didn't define React, right? We just kind of made use of it with this expectation that, hey, it's just going to go ahead and magically be defined for us. So when we write code for a React Native application, every file that we create really runs in its own little sandbox or silo. We don't really get just about any code for free in here. We don't get access to very many, we do get access to some, but not very many global variables. So we can't just call React and expect it to be magically defined for us. Instead, what we have to do is implicitly or explicitly require it into this file here. And by require, I mean reach out into our project directory, try to find some library called React, and then add it to our file scope. So we need to explicitly write some code to make that happen. I'm going to add a comment at the top, and we'll say import some code we need. And then we're going to write some code here to import the React library. So we'll say var React require React Native. So this is what I'll refer to in the future as the require syntax. We write require, and then we pass it a string. The string that we pass is the library that we're trying to get access to. In this case, the React Native library. If this library is found within our project directory, it will be retrieved, and any code inside of that library will be assigned to the variable React. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to save this file. But before I refresh it in the simulator, I want you to take note of something. We now have, we have reasonable suspicion here, or reasonable thought that, well, React will probably be defined here. It's probably going to work. But I also want to draw your attention to a second variable that we used in here called app registry. And in the same way that React wasn't defined for us, app registry really isn't defined for us either. So although we fixed this reference, this one still might not work. So let's go ahead and refresh, and sure enough, cannot find variable app registry. So app registry is, as well, a piece of code or a chunk of code that we need to import into this file as well. We need to include it into this kind of sandbox or silo of a file. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to say var app registry, and then rather than using the require syntax, this is just a little bit of a piece of trivia. The app registry variable is actually a property of the React object. So we're going to say just react.app registry. Regist ERY. Oh, I think I'm a little bit inconsistent here. No E's. Registry. There we go. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, why don't we write require app registry here? Again, app registry is just a property of the React object. That is kind of a little gotcha, right? There's really no great way without looking at the documentation to know that's the case. But this is definitely something that we'll get very familiar with over time. You know, what pieces of code we need to require that require the require syntax versus what pieces of code we need to grab off of objects that we've already imported into our file here. Okay, so there's actually two other components or two other properties we're going to pull off the React object as well. The first one is going to be text, which is being used right here. So we'll say equals react.text, and then var view equals react.view. Okay, so now I'm going to save this, and we will refresh our simulator. And it looks like, well, it's gosh darn ugly. It's underneath the header bar up here, but you can see the text days of the week. So it looks like our code here, our first component, is working. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and get continued in the next section.